India continues to remain concerned over the situation in Ukraine. We have always advocated that no solution can ever be arrived at the cost of human lives. To conclude, we continue to advocate Prime Minister Modi's view that this is not an era of war. We convey our felicitations to His Excellency Prime Minister Verma for Albania's successful presidency of the UNSC and for convening this timely and important open debate today. India continues to remain concerned over the situation in Ukraine. We have always advocated that no solution can ever be arrived at the cost of human lives. Escalation of hostilities and violence is in no one's interest. We have urged that all efforts be made for an immediate cessation of hostilities and an urgent return to the path of dialogue and diplomacy. The global order that we all subscribe to is based on international law, principles of the UN Charter, and respect for the territorial integrity and sovereignty of all states. These principles must be upheld without exception. Dialogue is the only answer to settling differences and disputes, however daunting they may appear at this moment. The path to peace requires us to keep all channels of diplomacy open. We note with regret that the collateral consequences of the conflict have led to rising prices of food, fuel, and fertilizers, affecting the world at large and particularly the member states of the Global South who have been left to fend for themselves. From our perspective, it is critical that their voices are heard and their legitimate concerns duly addressed. India's G20 presidency has ensured that some of these economic pitfalls faced by developing countries are brought to the forefront of the G20 agenda for solutions like debt distress. India's approach to the Ukrainian conflict will continue to be people-centric. We are providing humanitarian assistance both to Ukraine and economic support to some of our neighbors in the Global South facing economic distress. We need to avoid steps which endanger the possibility of dialogue and negotiations. At the present juncture, we must pause and ask ourselves two pressing questions. One, are we anywhere near a possible acceptable solution? And if not, why is it that the UN system, and particularly its principal organ, this very UN Security Council, mandated to primarily maintain international peace and security, is rendered completely ineffective for the resolution of the ongoing conflict? For multilateralism to be effective, outdated and archaic structures need reform and reinventing, else their credibility will always be on the wane. And unless we fix that systemic flaw, we will continue to be found wanting. To conclude, we continue to advocate Prime Minister Modi's view that this is not an era of war. On the contrary, it is time for development and cooperation. It is indeed vital that we continue to believe in the promise of diplomacy and that eventually it is always dialogue and diplomacy that delivers. I thank you for your attention.